Final project is such an important element in the assessment of the course. It is useful to say a few words about the individual project at the outset, especially since you are expected to start thinking about your project this week. The project submission should consist of a report, which is worth 50% of the grade, and a set of visualizations, preferably in a Tableau packaged workbook, or if you prefer, you can use Power BI. The idea behind the project is that you identify a research area, 2 research questions in that area, find data relevant to the research questions, and then create a series of visualizations that help you find an answer to the questions. The expectation is that you stretch yourself and use the skills that you acquired in this course and other courses that you've already taken in the program to complete a challenging project. There's a detailed rubric on the project in the module entitled Project, but I repeat it here. Because I want to give you maximum flexibility in the project, the rubric is a bit complicated, as you will see. The workbook, which can maximally attract 100 points, should consist of a data source and a number of visualizations, including a dashboard and a more advanced visualization, for example, a map or an animated visualization. The following table gives details about what I will be looking for. The table will require some explanation. The minimum required column is the minimum number of that particular element that needs to be in the Tableau packaged workbook or in the Power BI file. Thus, I will look for at least 2 data sheets or tables in the data source. The points for each column gives the points that you will get for each successful element in that category. Thus, a successful relationship between 2 data sheets or tables will earn you 5 points. The maximum for this category column gives the total number of points available in this category. Thus, you will be able to earn at most 25 points for the table, and as most of you will have worked out, that is 5 of them. The rationale is that the above gives you some flexibility in your project. Some of you may want to create 2 animated visualizations for your project, whereas for others only 1 animated visualization is appropriate. In other words, you choose how you collect the 100 points available for the project within the parameters set above. So make sure that you have at least the minimum number required in each category and realize that there is a maximum in each category. So if you have a large complicated data source with a large number of tables, you do not need to create as many visualizations. On the other hand, if you use a minimal data source with only 2 tables and 1 link, you will need to create more visualizations to get to 100 points. There is one more clarification. You will only receive points for the data source if the tables are truly separate. In past semesters, students have taken a single source table containing, for example, a number of economic indicators, separated these in multiple files, for example, a single file for each economic indicator, and then linked those. Since this was technically in compliance with the rubric, I accepted these data sources in the past. I will not do so going forward. Also, at least 2 of the minimum 4 visualizations, including in the workbook, must combine data from multiple tables in the data source. If none do, I will deduct 15 points for the workbook. The report should contain 4 sections: introduction, methodology, analysis, and conclusion. The introduction should give the background to the research questions you are addressing and a clear formulation of the 2 research questions. The methodology should describe the data source that you used for this project and where you sourced them from. The analysis should describe how you use the data reports and visualizations to address the research questions. The conclusion, finally, should describe the conclusions that you reached, discuss possible explanations for the trends that you found in the data, and hint at possible further research questions to address the issues that have arisen from the above. The report will be graded as follows. You will get 10 points for a clear and succinct description of the background of the project, including where appropriate references to external sources. You will get 20 points for the ambitiousness of the project, and I'll return to this criterion in a moment. You get 10 points for clear and succinct descriptions of the research questions, ideally formulated as actual questions. You'll get 10 points in methodology section for a clear and succinct description of the data sources that you use in the project, including where appropriate, where you source them. As far as the analysis section is concerned, you will get 10 points for a clear and succinct description of how you used the data that you sourced and visualizations that you created to address the research questions. Ideally, the report will contain images of the visualizations. You will get 10 points for the appropriateness of the visualizations to address the research questions. For example, is all the information that seems relevant to the question included in the visualization? Is there no superfluous information? Is the chart type selected for the visualization appropriate? And so on. Finally, you can earn up to 15 points for the conclusion, 10 points for clear and succinct the conclusions for both research questions, including justifications, and 5 points for the identification of additional research questions, ideally formulated as actual questions. I only expect you to identify them. I do not expect you to actually answer them as well. And finally, you get 15 points for language and formatting, appropriate professional formatting 5 points, correct spelling 5 points, and correct grammar 5 points. Now, the most nebulous of these criteria is the second one, ambitiousness of the project. It's hard to define this concept more precisely, other than to give some examples. Here are some examples of projects that lack ambition. A project that simply redoes one of the exercises in the course, but with slightly different data. For example, the car sales data example, but using sales data from another domain. A project that uses data from a single web source, such as Kaggle or the census. A project that uses artificial data. A project that has some phenomenon, for example, number of car crashes, number of police-involved killings, by some geographical areas, such as state or county, but does not normalize for population size. You would expect California to have more of almost everything than Vermont, because its population is so much larger, but the picture may look very different if you normalize the population for population size. On the other hand, a project that combines data from completely different sources, for example, COVID data from the Florida Department of Health with demographic data from the Census Bureau, is ambitious. The notion is that you stretch yourself. And we will return to this issue on the next page when we discuss the issue of selecting data sources for your project.